Hey gang, how are you? It's me. Glad you're back. Sunday morning. I just got my first stash of cans across the street. 5 minutes before two other guys showed. Thank God I went out. I was gonna record my video, but then I thought, if I miss that, I'm screwed. There's about 10 spots where every Sunday, if I'm the guy who gets there first, the rest is just gravy. I don't have to stress at all. These are 10 locations. I know exactly what time they put out their recycling, and these spots all have, good jackpots. It's a great job, by the way. This is like a video game. There's different strengths, such as you can carry bottles, but they're too heavy. So you have to balance. Are they worth the extra dollar, the extra money, compared to the weight? Depends how close the store is to you. Depends what time it is. Depends how much money you have in storage. Depends your strength. The competition are like monsters in Pac-Man, and we're all trying to gobble up the spots, which are basically cans. There's a lot of us. My God, I would think today it's minus 15 degrees. I thought for sure I'd be alone, and I was for about 20 minutes until everyone else woke up and showed up. Early bird catches the worm, so I stay up now for 24 hours because this is the recycling day. It's Sunday night, but people start to put it out Sunday if they're leaving. If they're going out of town or they're going out for the night, they start putting it out. And often they put it out early in the morning because they partied on Saturday. They just want to get it out of their house. And really, the recycling only comes tomorrow, Monday morning at 10. So other people put it out in the morning. And so I'm awake for everybody. I'm awake for the early people on Saturday morning. And then the afternoon, when the stores start closing around 5, they put it out. So I'm there for the stores. And then I'm there for people who get home from working. They're around 7. And then I'm there at around 10, 11 for people who get home late. And then I'm there at 2 or 3 in the morning if people get home really late, and then I'm there at 6 in the morning and about 8 in the morning. So this is a 24-hour thing. That's really all I have to do. The rest of the week, I'm free, and it's really weird. It's great. I really figured it out. But this video is not about me. I'm sick of talking about me, and I had something happen to my friend, and I just wanted to relay the story to you because, well, I guess it's mildly tragic. It's mildly funny because, he got narked, but he deserved it because he was and remains the only guy from my past who I've kept in touch with. He witnessed everything I went through. I described him narcissism many times over and psychopathy, and I pointed out a few of the people we grew up with because we've been friends since our teenage years. When he came to my school in grade 9, we became friends. He became part of our group, and I've known him ever since. So, that's about 30 years. And he didn't take my advice. He didn't listen to anything I said. Um, even when he's been scammed by the same guy 2 or 3 times. And I know this guy just as well as I know him. And I said, dude, that guy has a serious psychopathic side to him. I said, everything I've described is him, isn't it? He lies to you. I went through the traits, and he came back to me, my friend, a few weeks later, and actually said to me, I thought about what you said about him, and I think you're right. But he didn't see it in the people closer to him. And let me explain you what happened. So when I went no contact and broke down, it's been 2.5 years now. When I went no contact, he was my rock, so to speak, because he had just gone through a really messy divorce. He had lost everything he had accumulated, and his wife was not very nice to him in the end, to say the least. So anyhow, but at this point, when I was falling apart, he was independent. He was happily divorced. They were on speaking terms again, and he had a strong job. He had just gotten a brand new car, which was a brand new gold convertible something or other, which make him look like a millionaire, although it wasn't. But he had it all together, so I was able to depend on him, knowing that he would be solid, or so I thought. But he was. Up until the day, so he'd come here to hang out with me maybe once a month, take me out for breakfast or something, and we just smoke a few joints together, whatever. But I tell him what was going on, and he would listen until about a year into it, when he met a girl. So he told me about her, and I was, I was happy for him, and I was hopeful that she was a good woman. But after all I'd been through, I was very wary, since he'd just been through the ringer. Did he need it again? I mean, he just only stable about 2 years after a 15-year epic marriage divorce. He has two kids to deal with. But I let him be, and he told me about her, and she sounded great. Sounded like it was a loving relationship. And he told me she was a nurse. And I had two instincts when he told me she was a nurse. My first instinct was to tell him, "Oh, that's great. It means she can take care of you if you're ever in trouble, or any of your kids get hurt." And my other instinct was to think, "Oh no, oh no. Maybe she's a narcissist," because nurse was one of those professions that I kept coming up to in my research. They're just used to being in control. The patients are basically in the palm of their hands, and they get to play God on some level. Now, I've known a lot of nurses, not personally, but Lord knows I've dealt with a lot of them in the psych wards, and I always thought they were fine. I definitely would have dated all of them. They're really cute, actually. But still, I had researched enough, and I was in a state of severe trauma, so is that I actually did some research on nurses as girlfriends and wives. And most of what I found was pretty positive, but I still didn't buy it, because the people who were speaking positively of nurses as wives were married to them. And I've learned to look at things from a objective point of view. That's the only way you can really see things clearly at all, is by pulling back. Being no contact, so to speak. All right. So he comes to hang out with me about 3 months after he's met the girl. And I'm telling him about something that at the time was very fascinating to me. I forget what it was, but we were sitting in the park. And he was just not listening. He was spacing out into his cell phone. She was texting him, and he was responding. And I kept losing my patience, saying, "Dude, I only see you once a month. You're with this girl all the time. Turn the cell phone off." And he was just like mushy. He was like, "Yeah." And I said to myself, "Oh no." I said, "This is not a good sign. He's already looking weaker than I am." Like I can already feel myself looking down upon him in terms of emotional regulation. It looked like he had lost control, that his locus of control was exterior. She was now in control of his emotions and heart and mind and soul and body and spirit. But I didn't know enough about her, so I still was like, okay, maybe he's in love. Maybe I should be envious of this situation, and I'm not going to say anything. A few months later, he's not responding to my texts. This is probably about 8 months ago. And I'm thinking, what's going on? He was not responding. I say, okay, he's probably in love. He's busy with her. After about a week, I'm getting a little bit upset, since he's the only guy I have who I can count on in that way. And I get a little angry, and he responds that he's sorry he hasn't responded. He's in the mental hospital, basically. He committed himself. He was having anxiety and depression, etc., etc. And he'll call me when he gets out. We'll hang out. And I just think to myself, oh no. I said, this is not good. This is exactly what I was fearful of. But then I thought, well, maybe it was money. Maybe it got nothing to do with the girl. So I wait till he's out, and he stays in 10 days. He's inpatient for 10 days. I mean, I have checked myself into the emergency psych ward 15 to 20 times in my life, and I never stayed more than overnight. And it was always on my own volition. Well, of course, he too, I don't think they committed him, but you know, after I slept there a couple of times, I think it was only two times I stayed overnight. The rest of the times they just spoke to me and they'd let me go after a few hours. Of course, I don't really have anxiety or depression. I have borderline personality disorder, so my freakouts would not last very long. I mean, by the time a nurse came in to see me and gave me a smile and spoke to me for 10 minutes, I was basically ready to go often. Not all the time. There were a few times I was just, I mean, at the end when my parents had and when my brother was gone and my parents had left me, well then that's when I stayed overnight a few times. I was just out of it. I had no one to turn to. But enough about me. So I hear he's in the mental hospital, and then when he gets out, I start talking to him about narcissism and his girlfriend, and I'm thinking like, no, I didn't start talking to him yet. I asked him, I said, well, maybe your girlfriend. He said, you have a girlfriend. Maybe she's brought you down, man, because before you were so strong, now you have her. And he responds to me, no, she's the best thing I have. If not for her, I would be much worse. And that's when I think to myself, again, oh no, my poor friend, he's finished. He's finished. His locus of control is still exterior. He's not talking about growing, but he did mention, and this is interesting, he did mention in that conversation that he learned that I was right about childhood trauma, that he had actually been bullied in his high school. And that's why he came to our high school in grade 9. We didn't know. So when we met him, we thought he was a cool kid. We took him in. He became one of the guys. But he never obviously dealt with that bullying experience. And that's why he left the school, so it must have been severe. Anyhow, so he gets out. And I'm trying to drag it out of him, to try to help him recover, to talk about it. But his narcissistic defenses are now up, unlike anything I'd seen. Now maybe it's because I mentioned his girlfriend as a potential reason that she's causing trouble, but his narcissistic defenses were up, and I just thought, my God, he hasn't seemed to learn anything. He came out of it, now he pretends everything's okay. In other words, he waited, he stayed 10 days, and then when he got off his anxiety, whatever, his panic attack was gone, he just went right back to life. And I thought, this is not good. But of course, I let him be. He wasn't answering my texts or phone calls, so I kind of had to let him be. But I was texting him certain things about, everything I'd learned through recovery. And I was not pointing to his girlfriend. I was just giving him general advice, but he wasn't really responding. And then I saw him 3 months ago, and he seemed, okay. Seemed much stronger. He was talking about his girlfriend in okay terms. And then she called. She called. And he said to me, he put his hand on his phone. He said, "Shh, I'm not supposed to be here, so don't say anything." And I think to myself, my God, this is. He doesn't even see it. He doesn't see it. He was afraid that she was a nurse. She wanted control, and now he's got control. And I don't say anything, because I'd already warned him so many times going into the relationship that I did not want to meet her, so that I was able to talk about her objectively, so he wouldn't feel that I was criticizing her. So I never met her, but that didn't seem to work. He didn't want to hear it. Okay, fine. He tells me in that very conversation that he's moving in with her. Now, for years, even from before he got married, I've been telling the guy, dude, move into my neighborhood. You're always in my neighborhood whenever you have spare time. And he would always say, I can't. It's too expensive to get a place large enough that my kids can come stay with me, because he gets them every 2 weekends. And, 2 boys, 11 and 13, he needs space. And he was in a place that was 850 square feet, which is, he said, it was just barely big enough to have them over. And in my area, he just could not afford 850 square feet. So, but he tells me then he's moving in with her. So I say, I don't say anything actually. I didn't want to push it because I already knew I was right and I knew it was coming. And that's what I'm heading to, people. That's what I'm heading to. That's really where I'm heading. So I stayed quiet. He already, I could tell, did not like when I was bringing up personality traits and such. So I let it be. But somewhere in that discussion, he revealed to me that the place he's moving into with her is 600 square feet. And I'm going, my God, what's happened? He's whipped by a narcissist. I'm beginning to think she's not narcissistic personality disorder. I said she's got to have narcissistic traits to be able to control him to such a degree. And then he tells me that he's not moving into her apartment, he's moving into her condo. And he'll be paying half the mortgage. I'm going, my God. So he didn't want to move in near his buddy, because he could have afforded 600 square feet easily. He didn't want to move near his buddies. Not just me, all his friends are here, all the single guys, even some of his married friends live around here with kids. You can afford it if you want it. But he lived near his mom in that 800 square foot place, 850 square foot place. So he went from one woman to the other. So now he's living with this new girl in her condo, paying half her mortgage. And it's it's smaller. And now it's not just smaller. Whenever he's there with his boys, he has to share it with his girlfriend and her daughter. So now there's 5 in 600 square feet instead of 3 in 850 square feet. And he's paying her mortgage. So at that point, I'd already given up on him. I'm saying, all right, if he doesn't see it, I would drop him hints, but what I was noticing is that he wasn't listening. Whenever I was talking about something whenever I'd say something that he should have been listening, he'd look into the phone or look away. When I would talk about anything else, he'd respond. So I said, oh my God, there's defenses working there. I don't know if they're conscious or unconscious. I think they were unconscious, but I saw it. It was this tuning out. So, I don't see him for, again, a little while, not too long, because then he calls me. For some reason, he needed to see me. I think he needed to get some weed from me, which was unusual because he was always able to get before for himself. But I suppose now he didn't have as much control over his life, so he needed to depend on me. Something was going on. So he arrives here. I give him whatever he wanted, a gram of weed I bought for him. And tells me next time he won't be able to come down and see me because he's selling his car. You're selling your car? I said, you love your car. I said, just a year ago when I was falling apart, you came with a brand new car. It's a beautiful car. I said, he goes, yeah, but it's old, it's falling apart, it gives me a problem. I said, dude, you love that car. I don't care what kind of problem it's giving you. Life has problems. I said, if you like the car. I said, I don't understand. And then he tells me, well, his girlfriend only has one parking spot. She only owns one parking spot in the garage. So it's either her car or his car. And at that point, I should have lost my mind on him. But for better or for worse, I've learned to, learned to control my emotional dysregulation, especially when it comes to other people. I had a narcissistic trait before that I would definitely get dysregulated for other people's benefits. Like I would see them messing up in my mind. I would see them making mistakes, and I'd get really upset as if it was my mistake. I didn't want them to pay. But at this point, I realized you almost have to pay. If you don't pay, you don't suffer. And if you don't suffer, you don't learn. So I said, okay, whatever. I said something about it, about the car, but I didn't push it. So at this point, my friend, And by the way, he's worked at a bank for 22 years. He does have anxiety issues from way back, obviously from his bullying. But, I have to say anyone who works the same job from age, 22 until 48, it's from anxiety. I mean, other guys, you end up getting fed up, you quit, you deal with being poor or having no job for a while, whatever it is, you get by in order to advance yourself. But he's always held on to that, and it's not the kind of job. He's not like a investment banker. He just works at the bank. Look, it's a decent job. He's got his pension, etc. Most of my friends, repeat, actually correct. None of my other friends have such a pension, so he does have that. But just indicative of his traits. Indicative of his traits. So so he's losing his car. He lost his apartment. He has a smaller place, and it's hers. And then what I do is I go on the internet and I look where he lives. And I say, oh my God, he's crazy. I said, this is insane. He moved from a neighborhood which was full of life, with a lot of stores, a lot of commercial activity. It's something where you can go shopping down the street to the grocery store. It's exactly where I kind of live. I have, 20 of everything within 5 blocks. I live basically downtown of a big city, so there's nothing I don't need. There's a million of everything. There's 2 legal marijuana stores within 1 kilometer, within 10 minutes walking. 2 different legal government marijuana stores. There's probably 50 anyways, that's where my friend lived, and I looked where he moved with a girlfriend. It's isolated. It's like in a suburban kind of area, and there's just only towers. In other words, it's somewhere where people move to for an investment. You buy a condo there, it's probably relatively cheap. I know it's relatively cheap because there's no community. So it's basically a new area. So he's bored. I know he's bored just by looking at where he lives. There's nothing to do. He's stuck in that tower with her and his daughter, and her daughter 24/7. And now he has no car. So she controls him. I didn't say anything. He was still, he still seemed okay with it. At that point, it wasn't, he had gone to the mental hospital for 10 days, but he said she saved him. I said, okay, well, maybe this is love. He's got he's got everything a man wants in some level, or, maybe I'm just projecting. Maybe this is wrong, what I've learned, and maybe she's not narcissistic. Maybe she's truly caring, and she wants to build a family with him. Well, it's his birthday on Christmas Day. We call him Jesus, the Jewish Jesus. So I call him on the 24th. I text him, and no response. So 2-3 days ago. And I'm making jokes about almost turning 50. He's turning 49, and Jesus saved me while I was going through recovery, and he's my Jewish Jesus, and no response. It doesn't even dawn on me. But sure enough, a few hours later, a text comes, hey buddy, I'm sorry, I'm in the mental hospital. I'm going through a panic attack, anxiety and depression. I'll text you when I'm out. Okay. You know what I remembered at that point? That the last conversation I'd had with him, I'd spoke to him sometime for maybe a minute or 2. He said something that if he ever ends up homeless, at least he'll know who to ask. So, anyways, all this to say is that my friend got narked. There's no doubt about it. This girl, oh my God. Sorry. You know what else he told me in that other conversation? Where he said that if he ever ends up homeless, he knows where to come to? You're not going to believe it. came out somehow that she hurt her ankle at work, so she's no longer working as a nurse. She's trying to get disability. Now, I feel bad for him, but he should have learned from his divorce. She took him for everything she could. He was bullied, and he should have studied to learn that he's now, you may call a people pleaser, and a walking victim. Just as I was. And just as many of you were, or potentially still are. Just basically unaware of what to look for and what motives other people may have, and how, defects in morality will allow them to hatch plots, consciously, unconsciously, or subconsciously, semi-consciously, but enough to cause you, the victim, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of damage, a lot of loss. But I do wonder when he comes out of it, when he finally contacts me, if he's going to say, "You were right. It's the girl. I made a huge mistake. I got to get out of it and fix it." Or if she's going to be able to convince him that she's his messiah. Even though, the evidence is right in front of me, in front of you. He was strong and dandy, even going through his divorce. Even going through his divorce, when his ex-wife and her father were attacking him physically outside the courtroom, my friend was strong. He knew what he was doing. He was acting in line with his values. And I think this new girl, whatever it was, look, she took him off his values. He valued that car. He valued an apartment large enough for his boys, more than he valued being around his buddies, which I always thought was a huge mistake. I always thought whenever he got anxious, he ran to his mother. That's something I never did. I would run to my brother, so I thought I was, I didn't see myself as a mama's boy, but today I see myself I was a mama's boy because my brother basically was my mother. My mother and my father checked out when I was, 18, 19 years old. They checked out the day I turned 18, and they cashed out. And they told my brother to take care of me, so I don't know where I just got off of that. I don't talk about me. Anyways, my poor buddy is still in the mental hospital. He spent his 49th birthday there. He spent Christmas Eve there. Lord knows he might spend New Year's Eve there. And I just want to see when he comes out if he still has a narcissistic defense. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he just lost money in the stock market. You never know. But one of the things that I pointed out to him, which he spaced out, but I thought this was a sign of a real problem. When he first came out of the mental hospital the first time, well, obviously, because I have not seen him come out the second time. When he first came out the first time, we were talking about Trump, because I brought it up. And he brought up Obamacare. He wanted Obamacare repealed. And I was like, dude, you just spent 2 weeks in the hospital. It costs you nothing. I said, if you were in the States, we live in Canada, if you haven't figured that out. If you live in the States, that just would have cost you a few $1,000s, even if you had insurance, because that kind of thing is not covered on health insurance. You can't just say, I'm feeling anxious and depressed. They're not going to take you in 2 weeks and dote over you like a mother for free. And you have 2 kids, dude. Can you imagine you're already broke? Can you imagine your 2 sons, every time they got the flu, you had to worry about paying? I said, I didn't understand it. And then I thought, the guy just did not get healed in there. Because if he's not empathic towards other people's health and bad luck, how can he be empathic towards himself? And that's what I think narcissism is, You don't see yourself as just another human being who deserves empathy. Or you're not empathic with other people, and you see yourself as just another human being, so you're not empathic toward yourself. So anyways, we'll see what happens when he comes out. I don't know where I was headed. I was talking about, will he admit that it's her? Will he say it's her and get his life in order? And really the biggest question for me is when, if he does decide that, because eventually it's going to come to that. I mean, that's where he's going to end up like my brother, which is my other concern. But, you know, at the end of the day, I already thought he died twice when he didn't respond for the texts. So I've already gotten over that trauma if it happens. Uh, it's not good because he definitely does not sound healthy. It's killing him, really. No different than my brother, myself. I mean, my mother was killing me, and my mother killed my brother, and this woman is definitely killing my friend. So we'll see if he gets out. But what I really want to see if he gets out, will he move back to be near his mama, his mother, or will he finally learn to be an independent man? Because that's really what I needed. My brother needed, he never got it. And a lot of my friends need. At the end of the day, they went from their mother to their wife, or they still stayed with their mother, connected on some level. That's way too deep. Because I compare them with my friends who just don't have parents or who have cut like me, and these people are just totally, much more complete as human beings. They're not always in a rush. They're not always stressed out. They're not always talking about problems. And if they're talking about understanding and coming to terms with issues. I mean, I have a lot of good friends. I'll tell you something. I don't have any more family, and I have no more close friends except for this one guy from my childhood. But I started to count and I lost count. I must have 50 people in this neighborhood or in this downtown area that I know enough to go for a coffee or dinner with, guys and girls as acquaintances, because I've been out there for so many years, and really that's great because that's what's keeping me from getting anxious. I mean, there are stores in my neighborhood that when they see me and they're about to close, they'll call me in and they'll give me whatever they have that they're going to throw out, and that's great stuff off it. And it's not just me; they do it to other people. I live in it. When you live in a neighborhood and you stay in the neighborhood, it's like what my parents never wanted me to do, right? They never wanted me to be stable. So I spent 30 years of my life moving every year or two. I often stayed in the same cities, but I would just move pockets. By staying here and knowing I'm going to stay here long term in this particular apartment or just across the street or maybe one street away or two streets away, well then it's like I'm the opposite of a psychopath. I know every person I meet, I'm going to see them again and again and again, so I build a solid relationship. And I try to be as generous with my time as possible, because what I've learned is that, well, just like for the first year, I was just abusing everyone's time by just telling them my story, and just even if they wanted to go, I'd ask them, could I just tell you one more thing? Well, now I realize that the tables have turned, and there are a lot of people who are undergoing their own stresses and traumas, and it's like I've learned, just forget about what I'm doing. Nothing is really important as listening to this person, because I was there, and if they don't tell me, they're gonna like project it on someone else through violence, anger, or just mistrust. And as part of the tribe of humanity, I'll give them my ear for 5, 10, 20 minutes. I've had some people really laid into me, tell me their whole experiences. A lot of people going through a lot of troubles. It's not just you and I. All right, I think that's all I wanted to say. My friends in the mental hospital, I just can't believe it. I'm thinking about him ever since he told me 2 days ago. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I guess, it's really pathetic. I'll know whether to laugh or cry when he gets out. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope everyone's doing okay. I have so much to talk about. Life is great. Bye.